The galaxy was quiet, too quiet for the liking of the Imperial Watchers. The great empire had ruled the stars for more than 1,000 years. Its fleet spread across countless systems, its banners were raised on 1,000 worlds, and its name was enough to bring fear in every corner of known space. No enemy dared to rise against it, for the Empire had crushed every rebellion and erased every rival. In the control chambers of the Outer Rim, the Watchers of the Imperial Navy sat half asleep. Their duty was simple: scan the void, watch for smugglers or pirates, and report anything unusual. But nothing unusual ever happened here. The stars burned in silence, the same way they had for centuries. Then one night the silence broke. A signal appeared on the long-range scanners. At first it looked like a faint whisper, just static lost in the cosmic background. One of the younger officers leaned forward, frowning at the screen. Strange frequency. I've never seen this pattern. His commander barely glanced at it. Ignore it. Probably a broken beacon from an old wreck, but the signal did not vanish. It grew stronger. The lines on the scanner pulsed like a heartbeat, steady and powerful. Soon the entire chamber was filled with its echo. The officers exchanged uneasy looks. This is not random. It feels like a call. The commander straightened in his chair. He could no longer dismiss it. He sent the data to the central archives. Minutes later, a reply came back, short and cold. Keep watching. Do not engage. For the first time in decades, fear touched the Imperial Watchers. Hours passed and the signal transformed into something more: coordinates. A location deep at the edge of the Empire's reach, a dead sector where no one had traveled for centuries. All records marked it as empty, lifeless, forgotten. Yet the signal was guiding them there, as if someone wanted to be found. The Watchers whispered among themselves. Some said it was a trap. Others said it was a lost relic from the ancient wars. But one old officer, his voice shaking, muttered words that silenced the entire room. It is human. The younger ones laughed nervously. Impossible. Humans are gone. The Empire destroyed them long ago. But the old man shook his head. I fought in the Cleansing War. I saw their ships. I heard their signals. This is human code. I would never forget it. The room grew heavy with dread. The myth of humanity still haunted the galaxy. Once they had been a fierce, unpredictable race, builders of machines that no other species could understand. Their ships were smaller, their numbers weaker, but their creativity was unmatched. The Empire had feared them, so the Empire had destroyed them. At least that was what history said. Now the past was calling again. The next day, Imperial fleets were dispatched. Dozens of warships traveled to the coordinates, their engines burning through the dark void. Commanders mocked the signal, calling it a ghost story. We will find an old ruin, nothing more. But when they arrived, they saw it. Floating in the black, silent and massive, was a ship. Not any ship. The design was alien to every Imperial record, yet strangely familiar. Its hull was scarred, its surface marked with strange symbols. Symbols no alien tongue could read. But the old officer recognized them at once. Letters of the human language. Whispers spread through the fleet. It cannot be. They were destroyed. This ship should not exist. The warship was ancient, but its presence was terrifying. Even in silence, it radiated power. Sensors tried to scan it, but their systems glitched and failed. No one could measure its strength. No one could see inside. It was as if the ship was alive, watching them. Then, without warning, the ship spoke. A message flashed across every Imperial screen. Just 2 words in a language almost forgotten. We remember. The fleet froze. Silence filled the comms. No one laughed now. Fear gripped every heart. The commander whispered, almost to himself, humans. They are not extinct. In that moment, the galaxy changed. The Empire, proud and unchallenged, had faced the impossible. And the impossible had just arrived. The discovery of the strange warship spread through the Empire like fire on dry grass. The Outer Rim fleet tried to hide it at first, reporting only to the Central Command. But secrets never stayed buried for long. Soon whispers ran across stations, colonies, and even the Imperial capital. Some dismissed it as a trick. A ghost ship, they said. Some old wreck with painted symbols. But others remembered stories told in fear, stories about the humans. The High Council of the Empire gathered in a hall of black stone. Admirals, governors, and scholars sat in silence as the signal recording was played again. The words echoed through the chamber. "We remember." The silence after was heavier than any weapon. At last one counselor spoke, his voice sharp. "This is impossible. The humans are extinct. The cleansing war ended them completely." "I have read the archives," an older voice answered, slow and uneasy. "You have read the archives. I have lived through them. I saw their fire burn half our fleets. I saw the day the Empire almost fell." The younger counselors shifted uncomfortably. Most of them had grown up in peace, knowing only an empire unchallenged. To hear the word fear spoken in the council chamber was unsettling. A scholar stood and opened a dusty archive tablet. She projected the records on the wall, grainy images of human ships, smaller but faster, their designs unpredictable. History tells us the humans fought with a madness we could not understand. When their numbers were few, they built machines to equal us. When their fleets were broken, they used tricks, traps, weapons no other species dared to design. Their minds were different, dangerous. Another counselor slammed his hand on the table. "That is why we destroyed them. That is why the first emperor ordered the cleansing." But the room grew colder at his words. The truth was known only to the highest ranks. Humanity was not destroyed easily. The war had dragged on for decades. Entire imperial sectors had burned. Whole fleets had been lost. Humanity was weak in number, but strong in spirit, and they fought with a creativity that broke every imperial expectation. Even when defeat seemed certain, humans never surrendered. That was why the Empire feared them most, and now, after centuries of silence, one of their warships had returned. The admirals debated. Some demanded immediate destruction. "One ship cannot stand against an armada. We will crush it and the people will never know." But others were cautious. "If one ship has survived, there may be more. We cannot risk awakening something greater. What if they have been waiting all this time?" The Emperor himself spoke at last, his voice deep and calm but carrying the weight of final judgment. "Fear is dangerous. Hope is dangerous. We must act, but carefully. First, test its strength. Send a fleet, observe. If it resists, destroy it. If it flees, hunt it. But under no circumstances must the people learn the full truth." The order was sealed. Far away on the edge of the stars, the lone human warship drifted in silence. But silence did not mean weakness. Its strange signals continued, bouncing across space, hidden codes spreading to places the Empire could not reach. On colony worlds, whispers began. Traders spoke of the old stories, how humans once fought giants and won, how their ships could appear from nowhere, how they built weapons that no alien mind could copy. Rebellious hearts stirred. The Empire had ruled with fear for centuries, but now a new kind of fear was spreading, the fear of change. If the humans had returned, maybe the Empire could bleed. Maybe it could fall. Meanwhile, the Imperial fleet arrived. 30 ships, strong and proud, surrounding the lone warship like wolves around a wounded beast. On the bridge of the lead cruiser, Admiral Serath sneered. "So this is the ghost that haunts the council. Pathetic. It doesn't even move." His second officer shifted nervously. "Sir, its systems. We cannot scan them. Every time we try, our computers fail." Serath laughed. "Then we don't need to scan. We'll crush it like an insect. Prepare weapons." But deep inside the human ship, lights came alive. Systems that had slept for centuries hummed with power. The warship was not afraid. It was waiting. And when it spoke again, its words cut through every imperial channel. "The Empire remembers lies. We remember truth." The fleet hesitated. For the first time, imperial soldiers felt a chill they had never known before. History was no longer dead. The forgotten enemy had returned. The Imperial fleet floated like a wall of steel, 30 warships locking their weapons on the lone intruder. The human vessel remained silent, drifting in the dark, its surface scarred and old, but its presence was heavy. It did not move. It did not flee. It simply waited. On the flagship, Admiral Serath's voice rang sharp. "Target acquired. Begin attack sequence." The gunners prepared. Massive cannons charged, and the void began to glow with Imperial firepower. Each shot was enough to crack a moon. Against one ship, victory seemed certain. Fire. Beams of pure energy cut through the darkness, dozens at once striking the human warship. Explosions lit its hull, smoke trailing across its metal surface. For a moment, the Imperial fleet cheered, but then the smoke cleared. The warship was still there, unbroken. Not a single system had failed. Its shields, if they were shields, had absorbed everything. The damage was nothing but scratches. On the bridge of the flagship, silence fell. The second officer's voice trembled. "Sir, our weapons. Ineffective," Admiral Serath growled. "Impossible. Increase power. All ships, full barrage." The void thundered again. A storm of fire rained down, shaking even the nearby stars. But the warship endured it all. It floated, untouched, as if mocking them. Then at last it moved. Slowly, almost lazily, the human ship turned. Its weapons came alive, glowing lines along its hull. Systems ancient yet more advanced than anything the Empire knew. A single blast erupted. One Imperial cruiser vanished in an instant, reduced to burning fragments. No explosion, no long struggle, just gone. Panic erupted across the fleet, shields down. "We've lost them. Admiral, their firepower!" Another blast fired. A second warship was torn apart. Then a third. In less than a minute, 3 Imperial ships had been destroyed. The human warship was faster too. It shifted across space in ways that broke the mind, moving as if it bent reality itself. Imperial sensors could not predict its path. Every attempt to lock onto it failed. Admiral Serath clenched his fists. "No retreat. Hold your ground." But the fleet was crumbling. Entire squadrons tried to flee, but the warship hunted them like prey. Every time its weapons flared, another ship was erased. On the ground in Imperial listening stations, operators watched the feed in disbelief. They had been told humans were weak, broken, gone. Yet here was a single ship destroying an entire fleet. Fear spread through the stations like poison. Meanwhile, inside the warship, the crew, if it still had one, remained unseen. No face, no voice, except the message that echoed across comms again and again. "We remember." The battle became chaos. Out of 30 Imperial warships, half were gone within the first hour. The survivors fired blindly, desperate to land a blow, but nothing touched the human vessel. Finally, Admiral Serath gave the order he swore he never would. "Retreat. All ships, retreat." Engines roared as the remaining fleet scattered. The human warship did not chase them. It simply floated again, silent, calm, as if the destruction it caused meant nothing. From the wreckage, distress calls echoed through space. The Empire had not suffered such a defeat in centuries. Entire systems trembled when the news spread. 30 ships sent. Barely 10 returned. In the Imperial capital, the High Council met again. Their faces were pale, their voices hushed. The recordings showed everything. The impossible weapons, the shields that could not be broken, the speed that defied logic. One councillor whispered what all feared to admit. "This is not just a ship. This is a message." The Emperor leaned forward, his eyes dark. "Then we must answer. Humanity cannot return. They must be crushed before the galaxy believes in them again." But deep inside, none of them truly believed victory was possible. For the first time in living memory, the Empire had faced a power greater than itself, and the galaxy had witnessed the impossible. The forgotten enemy had risen again. The defeat of Admiral Serath's fleet shook the Empire to its core. Never in living memory had 30 Imperial warships fallen to one. It was not just a military loss, it was a wound to pride, to power, to the illusion of eternal control. In the capital, the High Council met in secret. Their voices carried fear they had never spoken before. "The people are whispering," one councillor said. "News of the battle spreads faster than our senses can silence it. Already the colonies murmur about rebellion. They think the humans will save them." Another slammed his hand on the table. "This cannot be allowed. Humanity was destroyed. They cannot rise again." But an older voice spoke from the shadows of the chamber. The Imperial historian, a figure most ignored in times of peace, now commanded attention. His words were slow, heavy, like stones falling into deep water. "You believe humanity was destroyed, but that was never the truth." The councillors stared. He activated a hidden archive. Images flickered, grainy records erased from public memory long ago. The cleansing war was not victory. It was desperation. Humanity fought us with weapons beyond reason. Their numbers were small, yet every ship they built was clever, unique. Where we had discipline, they had invention. Where we had power, they had imagination. We outnumbered them 10 to 1, yet still they burned our fleets. The chamber was silent. The historian continued. "When the final battles came, we could not break them. We did not destroy them. Humanity vanished. Entire fleets retreated into the void. Worlds went dark. They left no trace. It was as if they chose to disappear. Counselors exchanged uneasy glances. Vanished? Why would they leave? Because they were building something, the historian said. His voice trembled as he revealed the forbidden secret. Records suggest they had plans far beyond war. Hidden arsenals, silent shipyards, experiments the Empire could not understand. When they disappeared, it was not because we defeated them. It was because they chose a future we could not follow. The Emperor's eyes narrowed. And now they return. Yes, the historian whispered. And this warship is only the beginning. Far from the council chambers on the outer rim, miners and traders spoke in hushed tones. Tales spread faster than any Imperial report could suppress. They say one human ship destroyed 30. Imperials. They say the humans are back to free. Us. They say their weapons cut through. Shields like paper. Hope was dangerous. For centuries the Empire ruled through fear. Now fear was cracking. Colonies that once obeyed began to wonder. Perhaps the Empire was not invincible. The Imperial fleets doubled their patrols. Any who spoke of humans were arrested. But the harder they tried to silence the whispers, the louder they grew. Meanwhile, the lone human warship drifted silently across the edge of known space. But silence did not mean inactivity. From its hull, encrypted signals pulsed into the void. No Imperial scanner could understand them, but the messages traveled far, beyond the Empire's reach to places no map marked. In hidden corners of the galaxy, ancient machines stirred. Forgotten satellites lit up after centuries of sleep. Beacons blinked in the dark, answering the call. The warship was not alone. Back in the capital, the Emperor summoned his most trusted scientists. They studied the recordings of the battle frame by frame. One scientist whispered in awe, "This technology, it is not centuries old. It is centuries ahead. Their weapons, their shields, their movement, this is beyond anything we know. If this ship is ancient, then what have they built since?" Fear spread like fire. The Emperor rose, his voice cold. "We face not ghosts but builders. If humanity has returned, they bring not only war but ideas. And ideas are more dangerous than fleets." The councillors lowered their eyes. The Emperor gave his command. "Destroy the warship. No matter the cost. If we must burn 1,000 fleets, we will do it. Before hope spreads, before the colonies dream of freedom, humanity must be broken again." But deep in his heart, even the Emperor knew the truth. The humans had not returned to be broken. They had returned to finish what they started. The Empire had always ruled with fear. For centuries its fleets were unchallenged, its laws unquestioned, and its will obeyed without pause. But now, after the destruction of Admiral Serath's fleet, the foundation of that fear began to crack. Whispers traveled faster than ships. Traders carried stories through the stars. Rebels passed rumors in dark alleys, and miners repeated them in the depths of their colonies. One human warship destroyed 30 Imperials. The old enemy is alive. The Empire is not unbreakable. For the first time in generations, the galaxy felt something it had forgotten: hope. On the colony world of Deathros, workers gathered in secret. They spoke of ancient tales their grandparents whispered when no Imperial officers listened. They say humans never surrendered. They say the Empire lied when it claimed victory. They say if even one ship has returned, more will come. Eyes that once looked down in despair now burned with quiet fire. The Empire's control was slipping, not by battle yet, but by belief. In the Imperial capital, the High Council argued day and night. "The colonies are restless," one governor warned. "They see the humans as saviors. Then we silence them," another snapped. "Crush any who speak of rebellion. Make examples." But even the harshest voices trembled when they remembered the recordings of the human warship. The memory of those impossible weapons haunted them. The Emperor spoke at last, his tone like iron. "We will not wait for humanity to gather strength. We will destroy them now. Summon the Grand Armada, hundreds of ships. We will throw everything at them. The people must see the Empire still commands the stars." The councillors bowed, but none felt confidence. Deep in their hearts, a seed of doubt had already grown. Far away, at the edge of the Empire's reach, the lone human warship drifted in silence. To Imperial eyes, it was quiet, but inside, Ancient systems pulsed with hidden purpose. Encrypted signals rippled across the void. They leapt from star to star, activating things long forgotten. On a dead moon, a beacon flared to life after centuries of silence. On another world, buried machines shook the ground as they powered on. Across uncharted space, hidden stations answered the call. The warship was not calling for help. It was awakening an entire network. Imperial spies brought whispers of strange lights on distant worlds, of unknown transmissions echoing through the void. The High Council dismissed them as lies, but their scientists could not explain the signals. One scientist, pale with fear, spoke to the Emperor. "These are not random. They are coordinates. The warship is activating something vast. Something old." The Emperor's reply was cold. "Then we will strike before it awakens." Orders spread across the Empire. Prepare the largest fleet in history. Armadas gathered, weapons charged, every reserve ship pulled from the farthest colonies. The Empire would not risk another humiliation. Meanwhile, the colonies grew bolder. Rebels who once hid now painted human symbols on walls. Secret transmissions spoke of freedom. Entire mining crews refused to send resources to the capital, daring to whisper, "The humans are coming." The storm was rising. On the bridge of the human warship, unseen voices, whether crew or machine, continued their work. Strange lights filled the control room, symbols flickering across ancient panels. One final beacon activated. A massive structure, hidden deep within an asteroid field, lit up with power. Its signal thundered across the galaxy, impossible to jam, impossible to silence. The message was clear: we are not gone. We are coming home. In the capital, alarms rang through the palace. Reports flooded in. Beacons, machines, satellites, spread across hundreds of systems, were alive again. The councillors panicked. This is not one ship. This is an entire plan. They have been waiting for centuries. The Emperor stood in silence, staring at the stars beyond his throne window. His voice was low, but every word carried weight. Then the storm has come, and the Empire must face it. But even the Emperor knew storms could not be controlled, and this storm had a name: humanity. The largest armada in Imperial history gathered in the void. Hundreds of warships stood ready. Dreadnoughts, carriers, destroyers, cruisers, an ocean of steel stretching across the stars. Their engines burned with cold light, their cannons primed to unleash fire that could melt worlds. Never before had the Empire deployed such force against a single enemy. But never before had a single enemy filled them with such fear. At the center of it all waited one ship, the human warship. Silent. Alone. On the Imperial flagship, Admiral Kairos, chosen by the Emperor himself, stood tall before his officers. His voice was iron. "Today we erase the last shadow of humanity. Today we prove the Empire is eternal. All fleets advance." The order spread across 1,000 channels. The Armada moved as one, a wall of death surging toward the lone intruder. For a moment, silence filled the void. The human ship did not move. It did not speak. Then its systems awakened. Ancient lights flared across its hull, brighter than stars. Its message thundered across every Imperial channel. "We are not one. We are many." The void ripped open. Wormholes bloomed like wounds in space. From them emerged more ships, sleek, terrifying, impossible. Human warships, dozens, then hundreds, pouring into the battlefield. Some were massive, larger than anything the Empire had ever built. Others were small and swift, their designs alien, unpredictable. The lone intruder had never been alone. It had been the signal, the herald. Now the fleet of humanity had returned. Panic erupted in the Imperial lines. Officers shouted, soldiers trembled. Some ships broke formation, others fired blindly. The discipline of centuries cracked in seconds, but the admirals forced their fleets forward. "Hold the line! The Empire is eternal." The void exploded with light. The battle began. Human weapons were unlike anything the Empire understood. Their blasts cut through shields as if they were nothing. Their ships moved like phantoms, vanishing and reappearing with impossible speed. Entire squadrons of Imperial ships vanished in waves of fire, but the Empire struck back with fury. Hundreds of cannons roared. Missiles streaked through the dark, and human ships were torn apart in blinding explosions. The battlefield became chaos, flashes of death stretching across systems, fleets colliding in storms of fire. On one front, an Imperial dreadnought unleashed a full barrage, enough to level a city. But a human battleship absorbed the blast, then split the dreadnought in two with a single strike. On another, swarms of small human craft darted between cruisers, planting strange weapons that tore them apart from within. The galaxy itself seemed to tremble under the clash. In the capital, the Emperor watched the battle from the grand holo display. His hands gripped the throne, but his voice was steady. "Do not falter. Bleed them. Even if we fall, they must pay for every star." But deep inside, even the Emperor knew the tide had turned. As the hours passed, Imperial fleets broke. Out of hundreds of warships, countless burned in silence, their wreckage floating in the void. Humanity's fleet pressed forward, their message echoing with every strike: "We remember. We endure. We return." Admiral Kiros fought until the last. His flagship surrounded, his fleet shattered. He stood on his bridge as human fire rained down. "The Empire will never bow," he whispered. Then the ship was gone. When the battle ended, silence returned to the stars. The wreckage of the largest Imperial fleet drifted like ashes on a cosmic wind. In the center of it all, the human fleet stood victorious. Their warships glowed with power, their presence undeniable. The impossible had happened. The Empire, eternal and unbroken, had been defeated. Across the galaxy, colonies cheered. On forgotten worlds, prisoners wept in joy. The whispers became shouts. "Humanity has returned. The Empire can fall!" The age of humans begins again. The Emperor, alone in his palace, stared at the stars. His empire was crumbling. The forgotten enemy was no longer forgotten, and the galaxy would never be the same.